Hello, I'm Tim Lewis, author of 5 books and the host of the Begin Self-Publishing podcast. Today I'm going to take you through what Twitter cards are and also a brief introduction to Twitter advertising. This all stems from a comment that Orna made on the Alliance of Independent Authors Facebook group. She said, "By the way, card is Twitter's word for ads," and I replied, "Well, actually no, that's not true. Twitter cards are in themselves free. However, they are linked up with the advertising framework on Twitter. We'll look at both Twitter cards today and the Twitter advertising framework. So, what is a Twitter card? Why is an ad not necessarily a Twitter card and vice versa? Well, if we look at my Stone & Press profile, I've got 2 Twitter accounts. I've got the Stone & Press one and I've got the Begin Self-Publishing one. Now, I'm not actually set up at the moment for ads on the Stone & Press account, but I am on the Begin Self-Publishing account. However, if we scroll down, you'll see that I've already managed to post a link with a Twitter card attached. Now, Twitter cards is something that you can include within a tweet, and it gives a little picture usually and a summary based on the link that it's going to. And it's actually surprisingly easy for anybody to set up a Twitter card on one of their tweets, especially if you're going to a site like Amazon. So for example, if we go to the book listing for Magpies and Magic, which is my first book in my fantasy series, you'll see that there's actually a tweet button here. If you do this, you don't actually see it here, but if we then tweet this, and then we go back to this is what it is actually tweeted. You'll see that it actually includes the Twitter card. This is what's known as a summary card. Summary cards are usually linked to a website, and Twitter knows by looking at the information in the website, in this case Amazon. In the header of the website there's actually some information that says include this Twitter card within any tweet that's generated from it. Now, in terms of our own websites, we need to configure them correctly to actually produce Twitter cards. Now, the reason why people get confused with the advertising platform is that if we go to Twitter ads, where we would normally see Twitter cards advertised, this is the only place where you actually find any information about Twitter cards. So it looks like you can't generate Twitter cards unless you've created ads. However, this isn't actually true. There's quite a lot of technical information in here. The simplest Twitter cards, and the ones that we would probably use, would be summary card or summary cards with large image. App card is for people who are promoting iOS apps, so that's things on your phone. Player card is for producing video. There doesn't seem to be an easy way to create player cards on a WordPress site at the moment, but I think that's something that's coming. I've also heard that they're introducing yet more quite snazzy new Twitter card types, but they yet haven't reached the UK yet, so I can't really comment on that. So the place where you find information about would be Twitter ads. Now, when you actually set up a Twitter ads account, you get a lot more access to actually being able to create Twitter cards yourself, which is why people associate them with the ads feature. But now if we go to my console for my Begin Self-Publishing WordPress site, there are 2 places I could potentially set up Twitter cards based on 2 plugins that I use. One is Social Warfare, which is a paid plugin of about $19 a year, and the other is the Yoast SEO platform. There's also a Twitter card plugin that you can use, though to be honest, I'd rather use the Yoast SEO one than the built-in Twitter one because it's not got a very good reputation. So if we go to plugins, you'll see that I've got the Yoast SEO plugin. This is a very good plugin for all sorts of reasons. So if you haven't got the Yoast SEO plugin, I suggest you add it to your WordPress site, because it gives you lots of information about how to optimize the SEO on each of your posts on your WordPress site anyway. But a feature of the Yoast SEO platform is it has a social tab in its settings. We go to Twitter, and you can literally just click this and it will enable summary cards for each of your posts on your Twitter account. I would suggest summary with large image is probably what you want there. Then you would save changes. Now the reason why I haven't got this set up is I've got a separate paid plugin called Social Warfare. Now this again has a little tab where you just say on off a Twitter card. So if we clear this out, just go to one of my, so we pick an article out, you then click tweet this out, and we can go refresh my page. We'll see that I've got a Twitter card that's generated for my site, and that's because I've got the Begin Self-Publishing podcast Twitter card handling set up. Now if we look at the settings for my individual posts, you'll see that what it uses is the social media title and the social media description. This is if you're using the Social Warfare plugin. I think if you're using the Yoast SEO plugin, I would guess that it's using this snippet information which you can set here. So that's how you, if you've got a WordPress site, you'll probably use Yoast or the Sumo Social Warfare plugin. I would say the Social Warfare plugin is a paid plugin. But the other great thing about Social Warfare is that you can actually set up a custom Pinterest image and a custom Pinterest description, which you can't do with the Yoast plugin. It's also got support for supporting Twitter account numbers, which admittedly I've only just set up today, so you can't see it on my website. So that's the summary card which are related to websites. Now if we look at my other Twitter account, the Begin Self-Publishing podcast account, I have actually set this account up for Twitter advertising, and I've actually been doing some experiments with Twitter advertising. One instant advantage of setting up a Twitter ads account, which basically just means registering a credit card with Twitter, is that you get access to this Creative's Twitter cards menu, and you get access to something known as lead generation cards. Now lead generation cards are extremely powerful. Lead card for testing purposes. This is a test lead card. You need to add an image, so 800 by 200. Load new image, demonstration of the lead cards. Short description. And then I've got my privacy policy, which you need to include for legal reasons. The fallback URL is just somewhere it will take you to if people want to know more about what you're doing. These two are important, but at the moment we're going to leave them unset. Test lead card. And then we have to sign terms and conditions. Now, this does not actually create a tweet. This creates a lead card. And it says your promoted tweet, but actually you don't need to do a promoted tweet. You can just go compose. And this is your address of your lead card. Testing out a lead card for the Inda Alpha Fringe presentation. If you just want a standard tweet, you can create just a standard tweet. So then if we go back to our Twitter account, you'll see that we've got a lead card. Now I'm going to leave this card here. So if anybody of you want to sign up, you can do. I'm not going to do anything with any of the emails that I get on this. And here I am with my own Stone and Press Twitter account. And we look up the Begin Self-Publishing account. And then we see this lead card. Now we can click Sign Up. And it opens up. You can click on things and it can say Sign Up. This is where that link goes to. We log back into the Begin Self-Publishing account and then go to Twitter ads. And we go back to Creatives, Cards. There is a little button here, this one here, you can barely see it. Click on that and it downloads a list of everybody who has clicked that button. And this email you can upload yourself into Mailchimp or Aweber or any other email list you want. Now, obviously there is an issue with this in terms of actually running these cards. And this is a problem I've had. You can't check this list anywhere apart from on the desktop. So you have to, if you're running a lead card as a Twitter ad, you have to keep periodically checking this download leads button to see if anybody's been added into the list. Now, there was a function within Mailchimp to allow you to create lead cards from Mailchimp, which is what these two sign-up ones I created here were. Unfortunately, this now appears to be broken. So you have to use a third-party tool such as Zapier if you want to make everybody who has entered their details into your lead card appear on your mailing list. But there is no need to actually pay any money to create a lead card. You can only access it if you've set up a Twitter ads account, but you don't actually have to pay anything to run a lead card. You can just tweet this out whenever you like. So I could create another tweet with this based on it. You just click standard rather than promoted only. What I was doing one stage was I had my lead cards as my pinned tweet on my Twitter account. However, as the link broke with Mailchimp, I had about 3 people who had signed up for a self-publishing course that I've got available on my Begin Self-Publishing account. And I hadn't noticed because I'd assumed that the link was working with Mailchimp. So it's something to be aware of with these Twitter lead cards. It's always periodically check that the people who've signed up are actually on your email list if you use any kind of integration. Or if you're doing it yourself, then you need to regularly check to see if new people have been added in by going back to here and clicking this and comparing the list of people on the Twitter lead card list to those on your list. It might actually make sense if you want to use lead cards to run a campaign where you promise whatever freebie or thing you're giving away at the end actually to be given on that particular day. So if you're giving away a free book, for example, say on the 31st of October I'm going to give away a free book. Sign up here and I'll send it to you on the 31st. And that way you can just download the list on the 31st of October. Of course, they won't be in any of your autoresponder sequences or anything like that, unless you say, as I say, you pay for a service like Zapier and connect that up. There's information on the Zapier blog about how you would do this. Now, once we get beyond lead cards, we get into general Twitter advertising. Now, many of you may be asking, why would I want to advertise on Twitter? There are several reasons why you should at least look at Twitter advertising. One of them is that Facebook is now starting to run out of space in terms of where it can show ads to people. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's ever going to be a either or with Facebook advertising or Google AdWords or whatever other format of advertising you're looking at. In general, you should try and look for advertising places that suit whatever the topic of your book is about. I mean, Facebook ads are the granddaddy of advertising in terms of being able to target audiences. But I can see that advertising on Facebook is going to go the same way as it has on Google AdWords, as in everything becomes saturated with people bidding up the ad prices. At the moment, very few people are using Twitter ads, partly because of the nature of the platform and the fact that people don't think of it as an ad platform. However, you can do most of the targeting options and some extra ones on Twitter that you can do on Facebook. If we look at one of the campaigns that I run over the last few days, you get quite a lot of information in terms of how much you spent, how many people have clicked on it. But one of the great things about Twitter advertising, which is different from Facebook advertising, is the amount of information they give you about the targeting options you picked. So because I chose to target iOS devices, Android devices and desktop and laptop computers, it shows me the relative amount of impressions and clicks that I got for each of these separately. So I can see that relatively for my campaign, Android devices much more expensive than, say, desktop computers. And similarly, anywhere that you've actually got a multiple set, so I only advertise this particular advert to the US, so it's only shown me in this area. But again, you can see male-female split. Much more interestingly, it actually shows me in terms of interests what the actual split is per interest type. And I selected particular Twitter handles to target, and you can actually see that I had much better rates with the Social Media Examiner Twitter handle than I did with Jay Baer's. What I was actually doing was advertising my podcast interview with Jay Baer, who's quite a big market influencer. But it's surprising to think that actually it would make more sense not to advertise to his existing Twitter followers, but a similar audience in Social Media Examiner. So you get an awful lot more information in terms of what's working and what's not working, so that for whatever the next campaign you're doing, you can just remove the unprofitable sections, which is not something that Facebook ads give you. So if we go back to the Ads Manager, I'm now going to take you through what kind of campaigns you can create. So you click on the Create Campaign button, and what these options are things that Twitter allows you to be charged on for an ad. So tweet engagements is basically you're paying for every time somebody likes or clicks on a link or retweets a promoted advert that you've created. So a promoted Twitter advert. Video views allows you to create a video on Twitter, and you get charged for every time that that video is viewed. Website clicks or conversions. Clicks is simply you put a link in your Twitter ad and you get charged for every time that that link gets clicked. Conversions is a bit more complicated. It's similar to how it works for Facebook. So you create a little bit of code, which is done in a separate part, and I'll take you through in a minute, on your website, and that bit of code, when it's activated, tells Twitter that it's converted. Now, unless you're selling items on your own website, or you have a mail service that goes to a page on your website, then these conversions aren't necessarily that relevant. However, it's worth setting up the pixel, as it's known, which is the code on your website, because it gives you other options as well. App installs or engagements is to do with when you're promoting an app on Twitter, so you can forget about it. Followers, you can run campaigns that are designed to get you more followers on Twitter. Personally, I wouldn't bother because there are better ways of getting followers on Twitter than paying for them. Though I believe there may be circumstances in which you might want to run follower campaigns. In general, for the cost of getting new followers, it's a lot easier to just use the approach of following people yourself and seeing if they follow you back, which is a tried and tested way of getting more followers on Twitter. And the last one is related to what we were talking about. This is where you run a campaign that includes a lead card, which is what we created earlier, and Twitter will charge you based on how many people actually sign up to that lead card. Now, in my experiments so far, I've run tweet engagements and I run website clicks. I have actually set up the conversion pixel, which I'm going to show you about how to do now, but given that the only place I've got for conversions is on the sign up for my email list, I would probably just use this instead if I was looking for email sign-ups and just go directly to that. This is useful in itself. So if we go to Tools, you'll see that there's conversion tracking. Now, what you need to do is, when you're new to this, you'll have just 0 website events, and you'll need to click on this, and it will give you a little bit of code which you need to include somewhere on your WordPress or other site. Now, I use Google Tag Manager for doing this, where you can literally plug in this value into a tag in the Google Tag Manager process. If you've got an HTML site, then you can just include this before the body tag. If you've got a normal WordPress site and you don't want to use something like Google Tag Manager, there's a plugin you can use called Insert Headers and Footers, and you can just insert this into the header tag in wherever the same place that you've put a Facebook pixel. If you've created one of these, the pixel, it's just a little bit of code that every time anybody goes to your website, it will fire this little bit of code, and it tells Twitter in a call that somebody who is a Twitter user has visited your site. And then in a big database at Twitter, you've got a record that somebody with this Twitter handle visited your website. That's simply what a Twitter pixel is, and it's the same concept with Facebook or Google AdWords. All of these processes allow you to put a bit of code on your site. Now again, you need to have a privacy policy on your website to, strictly speaking, be legal when you're doing this, though a lot of people don't bother. Now if we go back to the conversion tracking, I've set up, once you've set that up on your own WordPress or other site, you then have to create events. So you click conversion event, and one of these should be just a website visit, and you can say site visit. So you create a general event, and you want to use the universal tag. You say all website visits, and then you want to, depending on the amount of traffic you get, you want to either increase or decrease. You can create multiple of these events, and you can also specify that you only want them to fire for particular pages on your website. Now, this is where if we go back again, I've created one for my mail list sign up. So I've got a thank you page which people go to on my Begin Self-Publishing page. When they've signed up to the email list, this tag will be fired. And this is what's called a conversion. But this site visit one I'm just using for building up an audience, which we'll come to in a second. So I've said that 90 days, people who've been on my site for 90 days. So you want to set up at least this if you can. Just say site visit and give it a period of time. And this will just get everybody who has visited your site. This is the conversion tracking, but the next one you want to look at is Audience Manager. Now, as I've only set this up the other day, I haven't got enough people yet to create a proper audience. But you create an audience, you can either do it based on a list that you provide, or you can do it based on the tags. And again, it's similar to what you've already set up. One interesting thing here, which is similar to what you can do on Facebook, is you can create an audience based on your uploading your own list. So if you've got a large email list of, say, over 100 email addresses, you can upload that and create an audience based on your own list. And this can be a list of email addresses, mobile phone numbers, Twitter usernames, or Twitter user IDs. So this is something you probably want to consider setting up, because you may not have any need to send adverts to people who visited your website or to people who've signed up for your email list at the moment. However, it's very powerful because these are people who've already had contact with you. And whenever you can advertise to people who already know you, you'll have way more success than if you're just going to what they call cold traffic. That is people who have no idea who you are. So we go back to the ad manager and we go and we create, say, tweet engagements. You create a name for your campaign. I would always set this start and end dates. At least with this, you can ensure that your campaign is going to finish. I can see a situation where if you click this and run continuously, you can end up forgetting about a campaign for some reason, and then end up spending lots and lots of money on something that's not working for whatever reason you've forgotten about it. So always set up and create an end date. You've got a bit of protection further down in that you can set a budget, but I would always set an end date for your campaign. Now, you have quite a lot of capacity for targeting in the audience section. Like with Facebook, you can actually target by postal areas or city names. It always defaults to whatever country you're in to begin with, but you can just remove that if you want to. So let's say we wanted to target people in Houston, Texas. So we could set up Houston and Rome in Italy. Of course, this is a silly situation. But let's say you wrote a book about historical Roman or something like that. And then you knew these were two places where it had the biggest appreciation for Roman culture. So there's a great amount of control that you can have within the targeting area. For now, I'm just going to include United States. Gender, you can obviously say male or female. Languages, I would always just pick English, unless, of course, you're writing in a different language. In terms of devices, there's a stupid amount of control, which I've never seen in any other platform. You can actually say you want to target a specific. So if you just want to target the iPad 4, you can do that. And also you can target BlackBerry devices or particular Android devices. So if you wanted to target the Galaxy Note with a witty tweet about exploding devices, then maybe that would be something you would want to do. You can something else you can do on Twitter that I'm not seeing anywhere else is you can target people who are new to Twitter. So you can say people have only used their device within the last month. Or you can exclude people who are new to Twitter. At any time, you can always remove these sections. So within keywords, you can either add in hashtags. So you could say something like hash am writing, or hash sci-fi. And one of the good things is it actually presents you with related keywords, which might actually give you better results. Given as we've seen that it actually shows you which of these are performing and which aren't, you may be best to just pick a whole load of these. So you can select all of them and add them in. The next section is followers, and this allows you to target your promoted tweets towards people who follow particular usernames. Now you may have seen in in my experiments before that I targeted Jay Baer's followers because I interviewed him on my show. Now you may think, well, isn't this just the same as mentioning somebody in a organic tweet? Well, in some ways it is, but the issue you get is actually realistically hardly any of that person's followers will see your organic tweets. Even your own followers won't see a lot of your tweets because just of the nature of their Twitter feeds. Promoted tweets don't appear in the timeline order. They appear when people actually log on. So you'll get a lot more visibility of your tweets if you target them by @mentions. And similarly, if you enter in names in here, it will suggest similar people, which in itself is a useful way. So you might say, oh, never heard of Joe Polizzi, even though I have heard of Joe Polizzi. And then you could suddenly find that actually one of these other people is actually much more suitable. So like Social Media Examiner gave me much better results than targeting Jay Baer. And again, you can see this from the actual performance of your campaigns, which ones of these did best. So we remove targeted following because you don't need to include, you need to include location, but you don't need to actually include anything much in terms of the rest of these. Though I would suggest you do want to filter your audiences as much as you can. Interest is a whole series of things that you can target. Now, slightly disappointing in my opinion, some of these categories for books and literature. Romance obviously makes sense, and non-fiction and mystery and crime. But there isn't, say, a science fiction category here. There is, however, technology and computing, which that might be a better thing to target for sci-fi. As for fantasy, your guess is as good as mine what you could target here. However, this is made up for later on. So remove interest target. Tailored audiences. This is, you may recall that we looked at Audience Manager and I said create a website targeting. This gives you a way to actually pick your audience to target. So if you want to target people who visited your existing website, you can include it in tailored audiences. This is exactly the same as what you would do on Facebook custom audiences. This little button here, for those of you familiar with Facebook advertising, if you want it to expand to people who are like your current audience, which may not be what you want to do, then you tick this box. If you're just trying to reach your followers, I would untick this. In fact, I would, if you just want to retarget people who visited your website, I would just select your audience and then make sure everything else apart from location is unselected, because it will start going into other categories. So it will select these groupings and your target audience when you just want to go to your target audience. So remove this. TV targeting is interesting. Now, you can only do this if you've selected just locations in one country up here. And I think it only supports it with a few countries, namely the United States. I think it does it with United Kingdom as well. Let's check that. So if we get rid of this and put United Kingdom. And let's go down to TV targeting. Yes, you can select. Let's pick a. So, a popular TV program in the United Kingdom is Gogglebox. And what this does is it lets you target people who watch a particular television program or have tweeted about a particular television program. And you have the option of either doing it continuously, so as long as you're running your campaign, you can target people who watch this program, Gogglebox, or you can actually have it send out adverts during the time when the show is first being aired. Now, I can see this having use for authors. If your book is very similar in content to an existing popular television program, then you may want to try and run an advert campaign at the same time that the show is airing, because people are going to be on Twitter as they're sitting on their sofa or watching Gogglebox, and your comedy book is being promoted. It may well work quite well. And this is one of the things that, as far as I know, only Twitter provides any support for targeting. Let's remove that. Another section which is similar to Facebook is audience targeting. Now, depending on your country, you get various different options here. You get a lot better options actually in the US. So let's change back to the US, see what behaviours we can get. So you see, you get a lot of extra behaviours in the US. Now, one thing I've noticed is that you can actually target people by their likely e-reader brand. So Kindle e-reader, or even more special, it's e-reader Nook. There's also general e-reader type here. Now this gives you a way of restricting who is going to see your ad to people Twitter thinks may be people who've got an e-reader. This is of course quite useful for people trying to promote books directly. So again, let's remove this. Another special in terms of targeting that I've not seen anywhere else is event targeting. Now, event targeting is something again that is very unique to Twitter. I'm not entirely sure how they work out these events. I think what they've got is a list of keywords and hashtags for particular events that are commonly used. So you can pick that you want to promote your tweets towards people who are, say, interested in like Formula One Grand Prix in Brazil. And you can add that as a targeting option. Now, I was slightly disappointed to find out that there isn't a Frankfurt Book Festival. In fact, they seem very light in terms of literary events. However, you can include things like the presidential debate, and you can also include various actually Motivation Monday or Hump Day. So again, if you've got a book or some other product that you're trying to promote, and it's very, say it's Star Wars fan fiction or something along those lines, by having this as a targeting option, you can promote to only people who are tweeting about the Rogue One Star Wars movie release. So again, this is quite an impressive targeting option which isn't available on systems like Facebook. The last part of this, let's remove the event targeting, is you can actually determine where these promoted tweets appear. Users' timelines are ones where when people are scrolling down they see the tweet actually appear in their list. Search results is when they're searching for things. And profile and tweet detail pages are when people are looking at profiles. You can also have audiences you exclude, so you can exclude people who are from your email list or from an uploaded website list here. You can also exclude based on behaviours. So you might want to exclude, say, people who have got nooks or something along those lines. Once we get down here, we get to maximum budget, which is the maximum amount of money you want to spend per day. Now, like me, I would suggest that you keep this as low as possible to begin with. So you start to work out what works. This total budget is something you should probably set. So I would set, say, £5 Presumably if they're in the US, this will be dollar amount. And depending on the number of days your campaign is going to run, you might set this total budget. Now, you've protected yourself a bit if you've set an end date up here, because this is only then becomes a cap. This next section is where you actually pick what your tweet you're going to promote. So you've got a choice. You can either pick tweets you've already created, and it defaults to promoted only ones which you've already run. But if you click organic tweets here, you get a list of every single tweet that you created. And this is kind of similar to boosting a post in Facebook. So you could find a tweet that you've done for, say, this is an article I do. I could select this as a boosted post. So this was the link to, this is the Twitter card I created to my Magpies and Magic book. I could actually promote this as a tweet. Or you can create a brand new tweet by entering it into this slightly concealed box here. And you can specify an image which you can get from your PC here. I think you can also include a video here if you want to. Now, if we go up here, it actually tells you what these specifications are. It's a bit of a peculiar specification of 600 by 335, or their recommended 1200 by 628. And I would suggest creating your own custom image for this, unless you're already promoting a Twitter card. You can also click to schedule when your tweet is going to start. So that's basically how you would create an advert. They have this concept of ad groups and adverts, but fundamentally you're just creating a campaign, and then you can actually add in, so you can select multiple tweets from this list and then promote them all as separate adverts. There is an option to then group these sub-adverts into what are called ad groups. But when you're beginning, you probably just want to set up a campaign with 1 or 2 tweets in it. So only if you start really running massive campaigns that you want to start moving these into separate ad groups. You can control the funding. And similarly, you can create multiple campaigns and have different budgets for each of them. One number to look at is this reach summary, which gives you some idea of how many people you're going to reach for the amount of money you're spending and the targeting options you've selected. So that's an overview of Twitter ads. I've not yet started to use Twitter ads for my books yet. Now, there's a number of reasons for this. Firstly is that with any of these techniques, rather than just using some prescribed magic formula, I'd suggest you run some small campaigns first to find out whether there are targeting options or techniques that work for your specific book. So let's say if you're advertising a romance book, that's going to have a very different campaign strategy than somebody who is advertising a book to do with tiling or something for people who are doing flooring work. For more non-fiction based things, especially if you've already got a blog or some other content marketing campaign set up, you may well be better to use Twitter adverts to send people towards your blog in the first instance, so that then you can capture them as an audience that you can send other ads to. I would not necessarily restrict yourself just to Twitter ads. There is of course no reason whatsoever, if you set up all the pixels and things on your own WordPress site, that you can't attract people to your website using, say, Twitter ads, which are probably going to be cheaper than Facebook ads, and then retarget those people with Facebook ads who've actually visited your website. A lot of people won't tell you this because most people who are experts in online advertising have only ever used 1 or 2 of these platforms. There's absolutely no reason why you can't mix and match social media marketing platforms to try and increase the amount of people who come to your website and buy your books. It's not necessary to use Twitter ads or even Twitter lead cards part of your marketing campaigns. Certainly if the targeting options that you've got available, say for example with events or with TV shows, are things that are relevant to your book. So if your book is very similar to, say, a famous TV program that's well aired, then maybe running a Twitter campaign to take people towards your free book sample when a TV program is on is something you might want to consider doing. So if you're, say, a romance writer and your book is very similar to the UK series Poldark, then you could run a campaign based on tweeting out links to maybe the first free book in the series as a lead ad during Poldark. And given that it's only going to be a short period of time when the show is on, you could then not have to bother with setting up integration and just have a list of email lists that you get at the end of the Poldark, and you import that into your email list and send out free books to people who are interested in your show, who happen to have been tweeting about Poldark while it's been on. In a similar way, if you've got a non-fiction book about a sporting event, you could create event-based targeting based on, say, like a golf tournament if you're writing a golf book, and use that. So hopefully I've given you some idea about what's possible with Twitter ads and also with the lead cards. As you probably realised, I'm quite new to Twitter advertising myself. But I can definitely see there's potential for it. And I think there's less competition in terms of how much you have to pay as compared to Facebook advertising, and certainly compared to Google AdWords. If you've got any questions about this presentation, as this is obviously pre-recorded, then please either email me at timlewis@stoneandpress.com or tweet me at stoneandpress. Thank you for watching today's presentation.